Hi friends, and welcome back to MV Stories. Today we'll look at a few Reddit stories. Today's story comes from the the A-hole subreddit. It was posted by NormalVermicelli21 and was titled, "Am I the a-hole for being upset that my fiancé chose to fantasize over another woman right before seeing me? Me, 25 female, and my fiancé, 28 male, have been together for 5 years. We had a bit of a dry spell in the bedroom earlier this year, which we've both actively been working on, and things in our sex life have never been better. A few weeks ago, he told me that he wanted me to make more of an effort in the bedroom, and admittedly, I was lacking. So I've been making an effort to do that, happily. Last night, I tried to initiate, but he said, "I'm tired. We can make some time tomorrow." I fully respect that, and we cuddled and went to sleep. No issues here. Tonight, my partner phoned me for the end of day high Hugh. I told him I'd call him again when I'm leaving work to meet him. So about a half an hour later, I called to let him know I was on the way. When I arrived, I tried to make a move on him. In response, he said, "Nah, I just had a wank." And I said, "Oh, okay, no worries, a bit confused given our plans, but whatever." We went and watched our TV show and ate dinner. I want to preface this with saying my problem is not with the above. I was a little hurt, but I would have moved on by later in the night. I have absolutely zero problem with him doing whatever on his own time. Watching porn, etc., that's none of my business, and I'm not saying he can't do that. And he obviously has the right to say no to sex as well. I respect that completely. Admittedly, I did feel a little bit hurt because he knew I was coming over, but I didn't say anything to him about this because I know it's silly and I'd work through the emotion by the end of the night. Fast forward about an hour later, and we were cuddling in bed. He asked me what was wrong. I told him nothing because, again, I know how I was feeling was silly. But he kept pressing me until I eventually said, calmly, "I'm just feeling a little bit upset that you chose to fantasize over another woman right before seeing me instead of having actual sex with your fiancé." I probably could have worded it better, but I also made it very clear that I had no issue with him doing that in general. I'm not trying to tell him what he can and can't do, and I'm not angry or having to go at him. I am just answering his question. Well, he absolutely lost his shit yelling at me, calling me stupid and an idiot, that he can't do anything right, which is so far from the truth. He says there's a lot if I try to address any concerns. Was telling me that he's just tired and to stop being so insecure. I just said, "Okay, I'm not trying to have an argument. I'm just telling you how I feel as you asked me. I didn't mean to piss you off." I had to go home either way, but I had planned to stay with him for at least another hour before this incident. However, right after this, he turns to me and says, "You can go home now." I said okay and went to give him a kiss goodbye, but he just leaned away. I asked him if he was okay, and he just completely ignored me. I wasn't about to press him on it, so I just said goodbye and went home. Am I in the wrong for telling him I felt upset when he was the one asking? I didn't mean to piss him off. I didn't yell or act crazy or cause a scene. And I wasn't arguing. I'm really confused. Am I the a-hole? Edit. After further reflection, I realize my issue is not with what happened before I arrived, but with his reaction to me answering his persistent question of what's wrong. Again, I didn't want to say anything to him at all in the first place because I know it's stupid. Additionally, he could have responded something like, "I see your point of view, but that wasn't my intention." And that would be it. We'd drop it and move on. Instead, he completely lost his shit and flipped it to him being mad at me for what? When he asked me what was wrong, I was literally bear hugging him as well. It's not as if I was sitting in a corner sulking, ignoring him, or soliciting any behavior to make him think I was mad other than I was a little bit quiet, but I'm also on a few hours sleep, so I'm exhausted. Blow up or not, I would have been quiet tonight. Update. In summary, the commenters in my OP were correct. The behavior, his reaction, not the act, did in fact get worse after we married. So much worse. I experienced what I and my therapist would describe as emotional, psychological, and financial abuse, which escalated exponentially after we got married and moved in together. I lived constantly walking on eggshells, made to feel like nothing I did was right, countless threats of hurting and unaliving me and himself, intimidation, belittling, disrespect. He had a bad PXXN addiction, constant attempts to isolate me, suspected him cheating, and the list goes on. Looking back, not all of these were present before we got married, but as many of you said, the signs were there, and I unfortunately ignored them for longer than I'd like to admit. So what happened? Well, we got married. His behavior escalated. I grew a backbone and stopped being a doormat. He didn't like that. Said I needed therapy to fix myself and us. I went because I wanted, not because he said so, which later became another problem, of course. Therapist affirmed everything I was feeling. In short, told me she was very concerned for my safety. We started making a plan for me to leave. And in short, a few months later, things ended between us. That was over a year ago, and I have never looked back. I cannot put into words how happy I am, how free I feel, and how much of that relationship was affecting so many aspects of my life that I didn't realize at the time. So, to close this off, I wanted to acknowledge some things I've learned in the hope that this might help someone in a similar situation. Ironically, it's a lot of what commenters on OP advised me. If you resonate with the themes in my original post or what I've stated above, leave that, man. Studies show it will get worse. Look up Darvo. Take people for who they are and their consistent actions, not their promises or the potential you think they could live up to. People have off days, and that's okay. But a pattern is a pattern. If someone is telling and showing you who they are, please believe them. Discern between your anxiety and your intuition. Trust your intuition. If you're being made to feel like you are questioning yourself, your judgment, your memory, your understanding of situation, your autonomy, don't ignore that. Reflect, journal, get curious with yourself, question why you aren't trusting your own judgment. If you are hiding big things happening in your relationship from your true friends, reflect on why. Not everything needs to be shared with your friends, and I do think keeping your relationships private is important if the relationship is healthy. However, when you're concealing things because you know it's wrong / you're being hurt, etc., ask yourself why you're concealing it. Ask yourself, if my friend told me XYZ situation that I am experiencing, what advice would I give them? Take your own advice if it is safe and legal. How you feel is how you feel. If your partner doesn't agree with that, that's okay, but they shouldn't consistently dismiss you, invalidate you, or tell you how you should feel. Again, people have off days, but a pattern is a pattern. If you can, live with your partner, go on an overseas trip, something where you are exposed to how they handle stressful situations, planning, initiative, what things look like when the cracks start to show, etc. Before getting married, BC, leaving when legally tied to someone makes leaving a bit more complicated. A pattern is a pattern. You haven't wasted time just because you're leaving after X number of years. You're saving the rest of your life. It's scary leaving someone you feel you're building with. But what are you really building if you're just complying to their rules? Life is far too short to be wasted being dictated by another person. If almost 300 strangers on the internet are telling you to run, maybe reconsider your situation. This situation was humbling as fuck for me because I do not know how I let myself get so deep into it in the first place. I've done a lot of soul searching, healing, and growing, and can confidently say I will never let myself be in that situation again. We're on a strict program now. Thank you to all the commenters for my original post. I wish I listened. Relevant comments. Commenter 1 says, I'm glad it ultimately worked out. Sometimes it's hard to see the shape of abuse when you're standing in it. Opie replied, thank you, and yes, I agree. Commenter 2 says, this situation was humbling as fuck for me, BC. I do not know how I let myself get so deep into it in the first place. You shouldn't be so harsh on yourself. For the vast majority of us, it just happens because we were young. A bunch of us, as kids, are rule followers. We listen to the teachers, we listen to our parents, we follow the rules and the supposed grand plan of studying hard, going to college, getting a job, work hard, get married, buy a house, have 2.5 kids and a dog. When we were young, we haven't started thinking yet because our parents and the world around us did our thinking for us. All we had to do was follow. Side note, that's also why predatory student loans are so bad. And then we get into relationships and we aren't thinking critically about them. It's all feelings that get the relationship started, and afterward it's not thinking either. We just try to fix problems as they come along. Fixing. And you can get stuck in that, not seeing the bigger picture, not going, damn, this relationship needs a lot of fixing. Maybe it's not a good one. And it's just because you were young. That's all it was. Not personal failing, just being young. Hope you replied. Thank you, I love the way you have explained this. Commenter 3 says, glad you freed yourself, but serious question. I wasn't on Reddit when you first posted, so went back and read your original query. Thanks for the link, by the way. Plus, many of the answers you were given by people who had a much clearer overview of what was going on, and whose advice generally said, this guy's a walking red flag and a loser. Don't marry him. Save yourself and your sanity. Walk away. So I'm curious as to why you bothered to reach out to the Reddit universe. Ask for opinions. Get many good and correct ones from people who took their time to craft replies hoping to help you. And then just ignore them all and go ahead and do what you were repeatedly warned against doing. Why did you even bother? Commenter 4 says, it's unfortunately very easy to ignore that and brush comments from outside off as they don't know the entire situation. It's Reddit, they exaggerate a lot, etc., especially when the comments are rather rude, even if justified. I've been in a little more harmless situation and didn't quite see the red flags either. Some of them I also didn't want to see as I just targeted myself on and on. Maybe he is right and I did deserve it kind of way. Opie got out when she had a therapist helping her, and that can very well mean she finally realized it for good once someone actually did know the entire picture and still said get out. Opie says, honestly, I think I was looking for some kind of validation that I wasn't crazy with the expectation that I was going to be told I was the a-hole. I completely resonate with what Jabachi said. I think despite the overwhelming response on my original post, I just continued justifying his behavior and felt I deserved it. Opie explains more on what happened after she left and how did her ex react. Opie replied, essentially after I started therapy and was very clear on what was happening, asserted my boundaries, etc., he went to my parents to try and flip the narrative. I hadn't spoken to my parents about anything happening in my relationship, so initially they took his side. He is scarily convincing. He came home saying, I spoke with your parents. They want to have a serious chat with you about your behavior. I was thinking my behavior. Anyway, I told my parents everything, and when I came home and he interrogated me on how the chat when I just said, I told them everything. After this, his behavior escalated physical intimidation, threats of violence, etc. I left the home, and my therapist told me to tell his parents, which felt so ridiculous in high school. But I did. He admitted everything to them, and they point-blank told him to stop abusing your wife. After this, he pulled a 180 that no one expected, and he ended things the day I had planned to. I assume he realized I wouldn't be a complicit, mute doormat anymore, and this was his attempt to regain control of the situation and narrative. Opie gives advice to people who are in the same shoes that Opie was in. Opie says, I'm so proud of you for leaving. As someone who is now on the other side of it, I have absolutely no regrets. I'd suggest writing a list of all the things they took away from you: autonomy, safety, security, self-esteem, etc., and things they did to you. Whenever you're feeling like you miss them, are romanticizing the good times, or want to reach out to them, read that list. Our brains do this annoying thing where we question, was it actually that bad? Am I just overreacting? Was it actually abuse? ESP, if it's not physical, it's really hard to reconcile. You'll learn a lot about yourself during this time and have to face some hard truths. Push through. Cry when you need to cry. Find joy again in the things you love to do for yourself before them. Even if it's as simple as playing your favorite music at home, grabbing coffee with a friend, or ordering your favorite takeout and putting what you want to watch on the TV. Lean on your support network. Find joy in the small things and somewhat romanticize your day-to-day. Eventually, you'll see how fulfilling life is without them. I really struggled with how did I let this happen? If you were too, I found it useful interrupting those thoughts with I did the best I could with the tools I had available to me at the time. Those tools helped me recognize the situation and leave, and I will not abandon myself again. We're conditioned to blame ourselves by them, and it doesn't just go away because they're gone. Read the PDF in the comments above. It's an interesting read. All the best. The second story is from Relationships subreddit. It was posted by Discombobulated Owl 81 and was titled, My Flatmate Has Told My Boyfriend She's in Love with Him. I, female, 27, moved into my flat in October of last year to take the place of a mutual friend of mine and my new flatmate, female, 27. We have a generally great atmosphere in the flat, and both have similar expectations and habits, and while we're not friends yet, as in we wouldn't go out for brunch or be each other's plus ones for parties, we are very friendly. She seems super normal and level. When the lockdown began, March, my boyfriend, male 30, 1 of 2 years, was living with his sister and his mother, undergoing chemo, who lived alone, needed somewhere to stay where she could be looked after. So she moved into his room, and he came to stay with us. My flatmate was totally fine, and we had a proper chat about ground rules, etc., but ultimately the flat is huge for 2 people, and she has a kind of granny flat set up in hers. Either way, she gave definite approval. Now, we 3 got on great, but never really spent a ton of time together. We all work from home and spend the occasional evening playing games or whatever, but ultimately, we didn't mingle much more than before. My boyfriend, however, cooks every night for the both of us, as a thank you. And so we do now eat together, and my flatmate seemed happy to be included. It was great. However, last week, my boyfriend took me aside and told me that while he was in the courtyard hanging out the washing, she ambushed him from behind and gave a huge speech about how she's in love with him. And while she respects he's with me, she has deep feelings for him, and that she's available if he were single. Oh, and please don't tell OP. She didn't try to kiss him, but try to hold his hand. He was very anxious and flustered when he was telling me this. The flat atmosphere is very awkward now, but as far as she knows, he's not said a word. She's not said anything else to him, but he did mention that she had touched his arm a couple of times as she was walking past recently, and it's really gotten under my skin. My boyfriend is also confused because he hasn't spent that much time with her apart from dinner and never alone. I spoke to our mutual friend who was shocked and says she's never done anything like this before, and she'd never known my housemate to have a crush on anyone either. I'm not seeing her acting strangely in any other ways, and it hasn't outwardly affected how she treats me. We can't move RN because virus, money, etc. How do I deal with this? Relevant comments. Did OP's boyfriend make it known nothing will happen? He told her he wasn't interested, and when she tried to grab his hand, he yanked it away and hot-footed it back inside. I've already spoken to him and questioned whether or not he told her he was going to tell me, and he didn't. I've already explained that frustrates me, but he's extremely anxious not to be around her. Update 1. Okay, firstly, thank you all for your advice, and no thank you to the few who took it upon themselves to DM me to be inappropriate or creepy. WTF, read the room. It gets a little intense. So first I'll just cover some things I wasn't able to in my original post. I trust my boyfriend completely. Even if I didn't, this apartment is large, not massive. I know where that beloved motherfucker is 24/7. A lot of you asked when after my housemate's confession, he told me about it. He told me a couple of hours afterwards. He explained to me after we had a chat about it that he was afraid I wouldn't believe him or be angry, because at first he thought it was a weird joke that made him uncomfortable, and he felt, rightly so, weirded out. I agree with the bulk of you that her continued touching is harassment, and while a number suggested he just confront her himself, I empathize with being in a situation without breathing room where someone is sexually harassing you. It's not easy, and you can quickly find yourself unsure if those brief moments of crossing a line happened. He's not on our lease, and understandably he was concerned about me and the power dynamic in the house. BC, her room is a mini granny flat. She pays the bigger share. I also don't believe that it was, as some suggested, a hypomanic episode. I have BP2, and while I understand the love rush, she exhibited zero other behaviors and never tried to contact my boyfriend outside of the weird touching. I also can appreciate there's no way she was actually in love. Yesterday, after a tense few days of trying to avoid her, my boyfriend and I were in the kitchen at breakfast, with her around in the living area. I went to our bathroom. She has an en-suite, which is just off the main area, to brush my teeth. I walked back out to grab my phone as she was sidling behind my boyfriend, who was looking in the fridge, and caught her running her hand and forearm across his lower back where his t-shirt had ridden up a little. My boyfriend, who didn't see me, yelped really loudly and just lost it. He yelled at her to stop, and when they both saw me, he starts going, "You see? You see? This is what I was talking about." I was furious, just whole body anger, and I could see she had now realized he had told me about her confession/behavior, and just sprinted to her room and slammed the door. My boyfriend and I went out for a walk to calm down, and he kept apologizing for not being more firm, but he was shaken up. "Some of you told me I should just confront her head on, which in the moment I 100% sided with. I was so angry for him. He told me he'd rather give her the opportunity to do it diplomatically. I appreciated what you guys said about lockdown being extenuating. In discussion with our mutual friend, I was willing to believe that an element of it was naivete and a bit of fantasy gone too far. I was willing to be kind to her. When we returned with a plan of action, we knocked on her door, but she didn't answer. We tried a couple of times, but she wouldn't come out, although she was seeing my WhatsApp messages. Come late afternoon, I was just over it, so I knocked and told her I was coming in. I sat her down on her bed and told her gently, but firmly, it was inappropriate, making us uncomfortable. Told her she had to get the hell over it / herself if she intended to continue to live with us. She burst into tears and started crying about how she's so sorry and what a bad person she is, and she can't believe the pressure of lockdown is getting to her, whatever, and I felt bad. Started sympathizing, trying to be compassionate. And then she says, it's just so unfair that the guy I'm in love with has a really great girlfriend. Reader, I lost my shit. Unfair, my ass. I told her she had a lot of growing up to do and perspective to learn, and that she owed the house an apology. She started to have a meltdown, a full, weeping, hiccuping, snotty meltdown. And then when I stood up to leave, I spotted in her clothes rack my freaking shirt. I took it and went back to my room. My housemate cried loudly with the door open until 7 p.m. for attention. When I cracked, I used our emergency contact sheet, called her mom, told her she had to come pick up my housemate. I've never met this woman who came rushing in like a superstar, but the look of annoyance and embarrassment on her face when she arrived and found her 27-year-old daughter having a tantrum told me this wasn't a new part of her personality. My housemate also shut the fuck up pretty quickly after she realized her mom was there. They didn't say anything to us, and we just hid in our room until they were gone. I think she'll be gone at least for a while, but I texted her to let her know it would be best if she texted me before she came back. I don't know when I'll see her. Technically, the lease ends in August, so my boyfriend and I think we can make it work and find someone new, and if not, it's not so long till we can resign without her. As a coda to all this, my boyfriend mentioned if she took a blouse, maybe she took other stuff too. I appreciate some of you may consider this an invasion of privacy, but I did go back in just to check the clothes rack. I found a set of my jeans, my t-shirt, one of my boyfriend's work shirts, a vinyl I owned, my fucking charm bracelet from when I was a kid from inside my jeweler box, and a sheet of my old antidepressants. This was just what was on the rack / on display. I imagine there's more in the drawers. I don't know if this was the right thing to do, but I left them there for now, BC. I don't want there to be any doubt she stole them. There's zero chance she's going to live here anymore. Honestly, I hope she does get help. I'm really angry and violated, as is my boyfriend, but I can empathize with the havoc an uncontrolled mental health issue can wreak on your behavior. And while it's still wrong, it still sucks for her to experience it and lose friends. Note, I can't be sure, none of US can, but I feel like maybe she has a histrionic personality disorder. Our mutual friend has told me another friend who went to school with my housemate had told her a rumor she told a bunch of people in their year that she had leukemia. Update 2. I don't know if this will go to the top or just get lost in the bottom, but I'm going to just go in and take my stuff. I think recording me doing it might be weird and legally iffy. I'm also not really concerned that she could be violent or aggressive if she came back. I think the whole situation has been pretty humiliating for her. It kind of seems like it's about eliciting attention or sympathy. How much she felt was genuine and how much was manufactured and magnified to feed that need, I don't know. I still hope she's okay. I've definitely let my health issues push people away before, albeit never so dramatically, so I don't think I'll be calling her crazy. My boyfriend pointed out that I wore my jeans last week and that we'd all been listening to the vinyl in the living space a couple of weeks ago, so I'm kind of interested to see if this was maybe an episode or an ongoing, but usually managed thing. I also only switched my medication at the end of April, but I have zero clue if the foil pack I found was my discarded last lot or taken before I changed. Anyway, thanks again for all the help and advice. Final comments. Lurky Turkey says, that's a whole lot of yikes. I personally think you should go back and get your shit. You know she stole it. She knows. Unless you're pressing charges, it doesn't matter. Since some of those items are sentimental, you run the risk of her coming in the middle of the night and taking it all / quietly moving out and never seeing your things again. Hope replied, I'm just going to go in and take it all with no recording. It's my only chance. Weirdly, a lot of the stuff only went missing recently, my jeans, the record. I'm not keen to get into a tug of war, but I kind of suspect she's probably not as malevolent as some commoners think, but I'm really only basing this on my own internal compass for the unhinged, which is usually correct. Pitsaysby says, holy crap, this escalated. I'm so glad you and your BF are on the same page this whole journey. Good luck on getting her out. Stealing antidepressants? There has to be a way to get her charged for something. I'd have called the cops or the landlord's stat. Hope replied, we're not going to press charges. At this point, it seems like a lot of effort for something that probably won't lead anywhere. And the antidepressants aren't even a current prescription I changed earlier this year. You also can't, get high or overdose or anything. What's she going to do? Slowly get sightly or happier in 6 to 8 weeks? Develop a really dry mouth? It was a personal thing to take, but not one I care about.